So, hello, Moira. I'm Karen Walstra. I really appreciate you giving up your time today to have a chat around how you're coping with COVID and what's happening in your schools. If you could please start by introducing yourself, speak about the school that you work for, and then just begin to share. So, thank you.
Thank you, Karen, for the opportunity. I work for a boys' school. It's a boys' school in Pretoria, grade 8 to 12 boys. And my role there, I'm the Learning Commons coordinator. So I'm responsible for scaffolding the curriculum, advising on the curriculum design, and also career guidance.
In terms of COVID, how did your school close? Was there training beforehand, or what happened?
Yes, when the president announced that we had to close on the 18th of March, I think, we then had a massive, step in just to get teachers ready, because we were going to continue with the curriculum. We're not going to stop. Okay. And the thinking around it was that, a class of headmasters agreed that they would rather carry on until the expected end of term for private schools, which was, I think, the 8th of April.
Yes.
And we didn't want the boys to have a break. And then 3 weeks after, we said we are now starting with online. So we wanted that continuity for there to be some continuity. So we use the Google platform. So it was not very stressful to transition, because already we've been blending learning. So, but now, because it was now full on online, we needed some intervention. So we had a massive 2-day training, and we also carried on with staff development during off campus.
Okay.
Yes. So we just use Google Meet.
Okay.
We feel safe in that space, and it can take up to 250 participants, which is okay for us, because our classes on average, we've got about 25 students, and about 900. I mean, about 80, 90 in a grade.
Okay.
So
and sorry, finish that thought.
The Google platform has been working well, because most of even other people we interact with, a lot of people use Gmail.
Yes. So have you only been doing like whole class meet sessions, or do you also do small group meet sessions? And how long are those meet sessions?
The timetable was adjusted in terms of the length of lessons, but the boys continued almost like they were in school.
Okay.
So we carried on with the timetable, and there are small group sessions if a teacher decides to have. In fact, we then say departments, this is how we're going. We just want the boys to have as much school as possible, but departments are responsible for how they want things to run. So, for instance, an accounting department will say, we'll have contact once a week, or one of us will have contact with the boys. It's how the teachers were given that flexibility. What works for you and your boys. And then small group sessions, yes, if you decide to break your groups, particularly the bigger English classes, and of course our tutor sessions. So school continued as normal. We still have assembly, we still have chapel, we still have tutor meetings.
Wow.
And the sport program, although with less success, we are also trying to get the boys, because what is happening with online learning, the boys sit from 8 o'clock on the computer.
Yes.
And they continue, even though they're given coffee breaks in between. But when you're done when you're done your work 5 minutes earlier, what do you do? Instead of leaving your desk, you go to the next teacher's work, because it's there waiting for you. So there hasn't been that physical activity on part of the boys. And I'm making this comment as a mom as well.
That's true.
Yeah.
So in terms of that, with the devices and the boys being online so much, were most of those then in meets, and how did that affect data costs? So have you had parents talking about data costs and things like that? And has the school helped in any way, or what are the implications there?
Yes, that was one of the first things to check that every boy can access in some ways. And St. Albans being an independent school, it also has scholarship boys. So most of the scholarship boys were catered for by their respective scholarships, but those who could not be catered for, the school had a budget to help with that.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes.
If the boys are online so much, what's happened in families where they're sharing devices and parents need them for work? Have you had to deal with things like that?
Not personally. But my assumption is that when the community realized that this is the situation, there has been some, adjustments in the homes. But we've also, as a school, been supporting parents and our students. For instance, our tutor sessions, we devised a new tutor program where you see the boys in a vertical tutor system where you see from 1 to 5 boys, they're all mixed, and then horizontal. Each teachers have been allocated a number of boys per grade. So, for instance, you have 10 Form 2 boys that you are responsible for, that you keep track of what is happening. We call the parents at least once a week to check how they are, because we are equally stressed. We email them. We talk to the boys. So there's a tutor session every day, one for vertical where you see them mixed, and also horizontal where you see them in the same grade, just to get a sense of how they're coping with assessments, how they're preparing for assessments, what is stressful. And in that tutor session, you just sort of force them to walk around. Say, walk in the garden. I want to see you walk. We are walking together here, just for them to have that activity. And of course, we are available 24/7 for anything. So boys are welcome to WhatsApp, to call, email if they need anything.
Oh, wow. And how have the parents responded to that? What are the parents feeling in terms of this?
There was some anxiety at the beginning, and I assume even now, now because the child is at home and suddenly you sit with 500 emails.
Yes.
With work, and some boys are overwhelmed, and parents would sort of. There was a sense where parents felt that because there's no contact, there's no real learning happening.
Yes.
Yeah. And also from the teacher's side, I think the frustration is we are social beings. We are used to seeing the boys running. We are used to see that body language. Now, you still want to connect with that child when they say, I'm struggling with this. But because you are doing it through an inanimate object, it's quite frustrating, I'm sure, for the teacher and the child as well.
Yeah.
So things, psychological things like that, have really come into play. And parents, I think when we began, we said, please be there. Also monitor things, especially when they write assessments. We say to the parents, we trust you, but just ensure that there's transparent and things like that. But some parents are busy. Some parents have got children. Some teachers also are teachers and they have children. Like myself, I have my son to look after. At the same time, I have to be available for online learning. So striking a balance, that has been a big issue, and particularly for parents who've got younger children.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got this big boy that you have to, help, but you also have little ones at home, and space. The space argument. It's the issue of space is also coming. You're all used to spend your time away from home. Now you're all at home. Dad is working, mom is working, children are working. There have been issues like that as well.
Oh yes, that makes a lot of sense. In terms of what you've heard from the staff, how are they feeling? What kind of how is the staff coping?
One thing that my principal said when we started was, when 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 this started, I was not sure how to make everyone pull along, but everyone just said, "Okay, this is the situation. Let's make the best out of it." So the staff is really pulled along, but it's quite a year where with online education, you have to prepare first.
Yes.
So the preparation was quite strenuous. But once you are prepared and the systems are in place, then you just tweak and change things as you go. But yeah, initially it was difficult to get into that phase. So it meant shifting your curriculum, shifting your planning, and because we also needed, some of us needed training to be able to navigate that space. They complain that they feel like it's more work than when in a physical space. But some colleagues that I've spoken to, on the flip side, they've been saying, you know what? I spoke to one. He said, in my 10 years at school, I feel like I've learned so much this year, because usually with IT, if you struggle with something, the IT manager is on call, the IT assistant on call.
Yes.
So when you struggle now, you have to tinker and find out things until it works. So in some ways, it has been a great learning curve for us. Yeah.
And then you've mentioned twice now being a mum, what's it been if you look at it from the side of a parent? So how have you coped at home? How are things working? You spoke about space and devices, and so what's it like from the other side of the picture?
Yes, for us it's just the two of us, so it hasn't been difficult. The first days would work in separate rooms because we would talk, but we've learned to some self-control, so I don't talk anymore. What is difficult is keeping pace with what is happening. I'm a teacher and I'm struggling with it, so I can imagine what any other parent is dealing with. Because then you open your child's email, there's 500 emails, and you check, have you seen this? Have you seen this? Have you seen this? The boys themselves have got a way of coping, and boys being boys, they'll always tell you that things are fine. And when you try to push too much into their space, they get annoyed. So it's making sure that things are done. But teachers have also been good. With Google Classroom, it gives you a summary of what your child has done in the week, so you can check that. And if there's anything, if a child misses class, the teachers are so good to say, your son missed class. Is there something that we could assist each other with? And then you can keep pace with what is happening.
Yeah, that's true. And I think in some ways it's been, like you said, a really big learning for so many people. If we look at what's happened in the past few weeks, what do you think the biggest takeaway for yourself would be?
The biggest takeaway for me has been I've always, vied for relationships. But contact is very important in whatever format, whether online or offline. But for the other person just to feel, even among us, when we have our small tutor meetings, just knowing that the other person is struggling with the same things that I am struggling with is quite reassuring. And I think also that as human beings, we just need to be stretched a little bit to exceed your expectations.
Yes.
And we can do it. There are a lot of things that I never thought I would be able to do that I'm doing now, and it's working.
No, that's cool. Moira, I just say thank you so much for you being prepared to share your thoughts and ideas and for giving up of your time. and for the amazing work you're doing with your students. It sounds really exciting, and that your children are being cared for, that you've got the tutor groups that go both vertically and horizontally is really exciting. And it's exciting to hear a good story. There are lots of sad stories, and it's exciting to hear a good story. So thank you very much for your time and for sharing.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for watching. Hope that was useful. Please follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Karen Walstra. Thanks again. Bye.